Hello over the peak people. I'm going with a video again. First I'm going to read from the Telegraph Co UK website and Liam Halligan, who normally writes on money there. I have used a couple of times the Popsy that is the official energy correspondent, but I mean she's just straight out of school, which is about normal, I think, for these mainstream media outlets. The energy correspondent is just a side desk just to be filled with somebody of no importance. But Liam Halligan is a big hitter in the econ, on the econ office. And he started this article all about Greece, but the second half, I better do a link, so I'll do a link. It flips over to oil and goes, Iran is obviously feeling emboldened with the US withdrawing from Iraq. Tehran has warned that in a bid to stem outside meddling in its affairs, it might try to disrupt energy exports from the Persian Gulf. This is no empty threat. Iran controls the northern shore of the Straits of Hormuz, the 20-mile wide pinch point through which passes daily over 1/3 of the world's seaborne oil shipments. Basically true, but for Iran to do anything about that, things would have to get severely out of control. While the escalation of any kind of tension in the Middle East is obviously a serious matter, I don't accept that is why crude prices are high. The real reason, perhaps less interesting, but no less important for that, is simple demand and supply. Global crude use is soaring, while the most important oil wells on Earth are rapidly depleting. Now, again, we've got to understand that this man is not the energy correspondent, the oil correspondent. He's one of the money correspondents. And I think he's right and wrong. I think there's an awful lot of speculation in the price at the moment. And I'm not the energy correspondent either. I can't spend all day looking at this. This is what you need, really, is somebody with a good brain that can spend all the working day long actually looking into these things. And an 8-hour day, 5 days a week, over a period of years, you might actually get somewhere. Okay, but we know that oil supply must be tight, or the price just wouldn't be up there, even though we can take some amount of margin for speculation in there. Because we can't forget that in 2008, when did I make my bet? Or 2008, it went to 147, and sometime in 2009, it was down to 30. Now, we know that people go from fear to greed to fear, but that is one stuffing enormous drop. But we know global trade did collapse, and what we're dealing here with is marginal things. It's an economics term that I'm coming to understand more and more, and marginal is a very important sort of word to understand. In other words, when we're talking about 85 million barrels a day of something, that's the 85 million barrels, and the bulk doesn't really come into play, strangely. It's just that difference from 84 to 86 at the margin that comes into play. Because if somebody is willing to bid up the price at that margin at the top, it eventually affects the entire bulk price. Something like that. But marginal things are very important, not just in economics, writing it on bits of paper. It seems that it actually does work like that in what we call the real world. Okay, so I'm just going to pop to a macroeconomic a geopolitical picture, and what could come about. Now, if there's one, thing that I have told people on Over the Peak, which I think is important, is that the rest of the world hates the United States of America. Hates Americans, if you like, if you want to really take it hard so you remember it. That's a very important thing to remember. But it's only like the rest of the world hated Britain 100 years ago. The top dog is always hated. Jealousy, all that sort of stuff goes into it, but it's a real feeling in the entire world. Not absolutely everybody, but you can just pencil it in as the entire world hates the United States of America. And that must be taken into account when we look at these things. We have these geopolitical tensions where we've got China, which is just starting to muscle into the world. It doesn't have a history of knowing what to do in these diplomatic problems when they arise. They haven't got it's just not automatic to them yet. They're having to actually calculate each time what should be done. Whereas in other places in the world, it happens almost automatically, because they can refer to what they did last time and they're being influenced by this. There's a whole system in place that just makes it roll. But with China, they don't have that system in place to make it roll. Each time they have to work it out. Russia is in a similar position. Its whole position in the world has been so derailed over the last 20 years. It's in a similar position to China. And I think mainly because of that, and many other things, I think Russia and China will stick together. And it's quite likely that India and Japan and the rest of the East will stick to a grouping something like that. They can't do it overtly at the moment because of the still enormous power of the United States. But covertly, I think we can imagine that they will be looking for an opportunity to tweak United States' nose. Iran might be it, but it might not be, because you've got Israel, which is a terrible problem because they are irrational, unfortunately, as Iran is. Iran and Ahmadinejad behaves like a complete loon. So it would be a strange party to pick on for the new coalition of the East to back. But it's going to be something sometime. And they could just try pushing it together when it comes to Iran. Do I want to go into anything more there? Yes, I think I do, because I read another blog, which I won't link to, because the main thing that I got from it was in the comment section. I'm still loving comment sections of intelligent blogs with intelligent commenters. Marginal utility again. What came up was the question: if you look at all the figures, basically, the West, Europe, United Kingdom, United States, and Japan, but I've put that Japan in the Eastern category now, are using less oil. And the East, I've actually shown these in graphs, haven't I? And the East is using more oil. Now, the question is, as time goes on, and more realization arises in more people that, shit, who are these people? And why are they getting the oil now? And we're having to scrimp and save and pay high taxes on it, and it's just very expensive. And they seem to be getting it and using it. How can these emerging people have the money to outbid us on the price of oil? And that's what it will come down to. On these marginal barrels of oil, The East will come in. These upstarts will come in and they will buy those marginal barrels of oil. And that will knock on to later bulk prices going up. And then you say, yeah, there we've got the little bastards. Because as the price goes up and up, surely it is the Western advanced countries with their powerful currencies that will then be able to outbid these upstarts from the East. No. And the explanation, I believe, comes in the word marginal again, or marginal utility. If you imagine, this is the one I've thought to use, I hope it still makes sense. If you imagine, if you've been around the world, you've seen these people. They've got a 50cc moped or some sort of small motorized bike, and they can tow a whopping great cart with it, and the cart's stacked up, the handlebars are overdraped with all sorts of things, and they've got boxes on their head. All right, the boxes on the head is a bit much, but they're really using that those drops of oil, refined drops of oil, very efficiently to move that amount of gear from here to there to market, let's say, to make a living out of. But then we look at, on the Western side, some Western housewife in a big 4x4 driving to the local supermarket to go and buy what might have been taken to market initially in one of these rickety cart moped sort of affairs. Now, where is the marginal utility? The marginal utility is in the lad taking the stuff to market. He will pay the price, whatever that price is, because he's getting enormous bang for his buck out of it. The housewife driving to the supermarket will go, well, I don't really need to go. I'll go tomorrow. Or when it gets more and more serious, I'll go my two times a week. Or when it gets even more serious, go shopping once a week and fill the car up once a week when you go shopping. The West will drop off their buying because they don't use the energy efficiently. The East will increase their buying of oil because they use those marginal barrels efficiently. They use it utilitarianly. Some other word. You think of a nice word. But they get bang for the buck out of their banging petrol, gas, gasoline, whatever you want to call it, refined oil. And that's what's important. You won't get another example by people chopping down trees with chainsaws. That is incredibly efficient use of oil. They are not going to stop doing that, and the housewife in the West is going to increase her driving to the shops. No, she is going to stop driving to the shops, and they're going to increase using their chainsaws and motorized rickshaws. That's the way it's going to be. That's it. Bye.